Ciao everybody, welcome to FIF TV. It's me, Dov. I'm here with my host, or co-host if you like, Vieri Capretta. Say hello, Vieri.
Ciao, ciao.
We're here obviously because Juventus have just officially won the Serie A title. The Scudetto is there for the 6th consecutive season on all-time record. Vieri, it's something that we kind of knew that was going to happen. I've more or less said it since about November, December time, but as soon as Juventus went, I think it went 10 points, 11 points ahead at one stage, the Scudetto was theirs, and it's just, for me, been a formality that this has happened. I mean, what's your just general thoughts on it first?
Well, I don't know if you remember what I always used to say is I think the only thing that could have stopped Juventus from winning it so easily was the Champions League. Their focus on winning the Champions League, which is the big trophy that's missing in their cabinet in this recent run of victories of the past 6 seasons. And they've been very close to it in 2015, and they've clearly built a team to win the Champions League. This season, they're in the final, they'll have a chance on the 3rd of June. So that's their main aim, and all their energy, well, the main focus was on that. So they could have lost some points on the way. Well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and it enabled them to put enough space in between them and the teams following, Juve, which are obviously Roma and Napoli, being specific. And then Juve in the last 3 games before Crotone only picked up 2 points, and they're still 4 points ahead of Roma with a game to go, and obviously they're champions. So they've managed to win it this easily, and they're still in the Champions League final. So that's the real achievement.
And what about, like you say, they kind of managed to win it, they won the Coppa in midweek, and then they're in the Champions League final, like you say. I mean, I can't remember really any games in Serie A this season where they've struggled. I think every single game they've played, whether it be against Napoli, Milan, Lazio, Torino, and I'm even going to discount the game against Roma the other week because I think that they kind of knew that they'd won the title, so they didn't really put as much effort in as they would normally do, but they've just been head and shoulders above everybody.
I think that there are a couple of games in which they struggled, but as you said, it was maybe kind of in the plan to struggle. So I would say in Rome and in Naples against Napoli and home to Torino, and even in Bergamo against Atalanta at points. So three of the last 4 games, just to see how they've managed to deal with their mental and physical energy in order to focus it on the Champions League. And then in Naples, in the league and in the Coppa Italia games, but both games being exactly what Juve were meant to do, so kind of defensive and let Napoli do what they do best, attack without giving them too much space, and kind of manage the result. So they got that point away from home in Naples that was absolutely decisive for the run in Serie A. So yeah, there's no game in which they clearly struggled, and I think it shows how brilliant Juventus are, how brilliant they've been for the past 6 seasons really, and also in a way a lack of competition in Serie A, which seems to be an issue as well.
Indeed, I think you're definitely right. I think the way that they've planned this season, how they've done everything this season has just been exactly, I think, how Max Allegri wanted it to go. Like, let's move on and talk about some of the players then, because obviously this has been a season in which Paulo Dybala has kind of gone on to the international stage. Gianluigi Buffon is another who's kind of, his legend has grown. But I mean, who's for you been the player that has, say, typified this Juventus Scudetto win?
It's difficult, obviously, almost impossible to say. If I had to pick just one, I would say Sami Khedira. One of the unsung heroes that then became a hero as the season progressed, because he's one of those key players which enabled Allegri to move to that formation, the system, the 4-2-3-1 system that lets him play all his strikers, having only 2 midfielders, and obviously Khedira, Pjanic and Marchisio have stepped up to be really good in enabling Allegri to change system into a more European kind of football. The second one I would mention is Mario Mandzukic himself, because obviously moving from being a centre forward to such a fantastic, hard-working, defensive even winger, showing his amazing skills anyway. I mean, he scored the opener against Crotone today. at the last minute, he almost scored an absolute stunner from midfield. I don't know if anyone saw that, with Cordats putting in a brilliant save to deny what would have been Juve's 4-0. So these two players, obviously going hand in hand with the whole team, with the best defense possibly in history, with the best goalkeeper in history, with Dybala and Higuain, who are absolutely illegal, definitely for Serie A, but even at a European level, fantastic strikers. Juventus are just a really complete, mature, experienced, self-confident team, and the product is 6 Scudettos in a row and just an inch away from winning the Champions League as well.
See, you're not allowed to say Sami Khedira because that's my pick. Sami Khedira for me has been that Juve team. And I know when we were discussing the FAF awards and looking at the nominees for Player of the Season, he was one that I insisted should have went in there, even though like Nick complaining that Mauro Icardi wasn't in. But I think Khedira, he's not the one that's grabbed the headlines, like you say, but he's the one I think that really has kind of brought everything together in that Juve team. And obviously, just recently as well, Dani Alves, when you're looking at kind of big game player doing it in the big games, Dani Alves is the guy who's kind of stepped up as well. I mean, it's really difficult to pick a weakness in the side, which is something that obviously has led to their success this season.
I think if there has to be a weakness, but I mean, Dov, we're being very, very picky here, but I mean, this is
That's our
what
job.
we're here for. If there has to be a weakness, maybe Juventus is a team that when they don't play with that intensity that has come out so clearly in games like against Barcelona, then they do win scruffy games against smaller teams, but against the big teams they have to be at their absolute best, which is the case for most teams. I mean, I'm not saying it's a massive weakness. I'm saying I've seen, for example, Real Madrid in certain games not be at their absolute best and still manage to win. So maybe that's the slight difference, even looking at the final in Cardiff. But that's possibly the only weakness. Juve almost always have to be at their very best in terms of aggressiveness, intensity, all those qualities that Allegri preaches about every week.
That's true.
Do you think there is a weakness?
If I'm being honest, I'm the same as you. I can't really think of anything. I think if you look at all the kind of big teams in Europe, because I'm going to compare them to them, because compared to the Serie A teams, they're head and shoulders above everybody. But compared to the top tier teams, I think Juve are the most balanced. They've got a great defence, they've got excellent full-backs, they've got great midfielders that all offer very different things, that all complement each other. And then they've got the different kinds of attackers that you want. They've got Fox in the box, they've got the big target man, they've got a little player who can kind of be incisive, score great skillful goals. They've got wingers that can take people on. They've literally got everything a team could want, and they all function so well together. And I think that's one of the reasons why they've got so far in the Champions League, and one of the reasons why they've dominated Serie A for the last 6 years really, but especially this season.
Well, absolutely. I think I don't consider it a weakness, but if there's anything they're missing is maybe they don't have that one single absolute star that could be obviously someone like Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. So a player who's more than a team, who's an absolute legend, who's made history. You could argue Buffon is that kind of player that you have.
But could you not say that's a benefit though? Is that not a benefit? They don't have that star player like Ronaldo, like Messi, or even like Pogba,
I think it might be a benefit in a single season. But I mean, nobody could argue it's not a benefit to have Messi and Ronaldo over the space of a decade. Just looking at the amount they've won. But I could easily say that Buffon could be that guy that they have. It's just in goal. And I mean, some of this, I was reading the last stat on Buffon, which is absolutely unreal, is that he's the single player who's won most Serie A titles in history. Apparently, I need to verify it, to be honest.
No, yeah, it's true. That doesn't include the titles that have been revoked as well.
So that's just so he falls in that category, like Messi, like Ronaldo, who basically always win.
This is true. Right, so where do Juve then go from here? I want to look at it from a Serie A context, because obviously Champions League is a different kettle of fish, but what do they need to do to win Serie A again? Keep doing keep the same team together? What would you do to improve that team?
They've been able to change players well. I think you could add a bit more youth in their defence. start looking for a replacement for Buffon. He still says he's got at least another season in him. Possible if you look at how he plays even more than that. And Chiellini and Bonucci definitely have still a couple of years, but you know, Barzagli is a bit older, so maybe a bit of youth, which they have. They have Rugani already in the squad for the past 2 seasons. Caldara, Atalanta's Caldara, could be joining them already or could be staying on loan for another season at Atalanta, but he is a Juventus player. So that kind of forward thinking, which is what they did a little bit with someone like Paulo Dybala. And keeping up that motivation, because with big teams like this, and look at Barcelona in recently, it's kind of the same players. Maybe age does factor in, but it's also keeping that motivation to play every game with that intensity that the winning teams always have. And obviously hoping that Roma and Napoli don't make that final step to kind of make it a bit more interesting. And in that case, you know, one weakness Juve might have is that they've won, apart from maybe last season where they had to kind of catch up after a really bad start to the season. They've always won very easily in the past 3-4 years after the first 2 years with Conte. So that kind of tells you maybe they're not used to a head-to-head, and they might not react as well as you'd imagine. But I mean, it's just me, and it's just my opinion. We need to see that in reality. Reality says Juventus are almost perfect, and to keep it going, you just want this team to stay as young as possible so that it can last as long as possible in time. Yeah, well, the good thing about Juve, or for them and their fans, is that they always stay ahead of the pack, so they never get into that situation where they are in a head-to-head. They just buy the best. They buy the best players from the teams behind them. Pjanic and Higuain are the prime example. Yeah, there you go. A bit of speculation then, because everybody loves speculation. It is almost transfer silly season. Is there anybody you think Juve are going to let go? Who's going to leave the club? Any big names going to leave the club? Allegri, is he going to leave? Look, I have a feeling that if Allegri wins the treble, he'll try and leave. Obviously, he's the type of guy, he's a very pragmatic man, so he'll need an offer coming in. But he knows he can never do better than what he'll eventually do if he does win the treble. If he doesn't, it's a different matter, and he might want to stay to try one more time. But losing 2 finals in 3 years, again, is a sign that maybe it's the right time to leave. In terms of players, I think someone like Mario Mandzukic, we were saying how amazing he's been on the wing, but he's not a winger. I think as much as he's sacrificed himself for the team, he'll want regular play in attack, and he might want to leave as well. But I don't think anyone will go to Marotta and Paratici and Agnelli and say, oh, I really want to leave, you've treated me badly. It'll all be in a very calm and fair way, which is Juve's strength always, or really often. And they'll be able to plan whatever comes next very simply. And look at, they've sold Paul Pogba, they're possibly the best player last season, and they've replaced them with Higuain and another couple of good signings that were more important for the team as a whole. And that's what I think Juve will try and do again. You know, they might lose someone like Mandzukic, but a good enough player, or even a better one, maybe younger, will come in. I'm thinking Marquisio. Marquisio is another one who's obviously, he's been tied to Juve all his career, so it's a bit different with him, but he's someone who might want to go back to regular playing time. Looking at the fact that next season is the one going into the World Cup, so he might choose to leave, especially again, if Juve does win the treble, then what can you do to make it any better? So it's more than speculation, it's a bit of kind of understanding what players might want that's a bit different to what Juve are now. There we go, right. So this is just a short video to sum up what happened today in Serie A. Juventus winning the title as we all expected, really. Let us know what you think. Obviously, leave a comment down in the bottom there. Just tell us what you think about Juve this season, who's impressed you, what do you think is going to happen next season, the players, coaches, stuff like that. Everything, put it down there in the comments below. And then look at all the links as well. We've got the FAF Awards, which you can still vote in for Player of the Season, Coach of the Season, and all that kind of stuff as well. And also Facebook, Twitter, and if you really want to, leave us a little donation, if you like, on Patreon, and the links, like I say, are all down below. Right, Vieri, it's been a momentous day for Juve. History literally has been made today. Say goodbye to the viewers. Ciao ciao ciao.
Ciao.
Questa coppa per la sesta volta consecutiva alzata nel cielo dello stadio. Oggi giornata splendida. Lo spazio alle emozioni.
Alza il cielo! La Coppa Campioni Italia 16-17! Il capitano Gianluigi Buffon!
L'inno della Serie A, o generosa, le emozioni dello stadium, i fuochi d'artificio, la festa per la leggenda, per i 6 scudetti consecutivi, per una Juve, come ha detto Buffon, che sta dimostrando di essere la Juve degli invincibili.